Okay, guys, we're gonna go back and finish. We're gonna do another demo here and talk about developing our characters a little bit further. What I thought I would do is I like to do this sort of practice where I work really rough in developing a character, and I don't know exactly where I'm going with it sometimes. It's a way for me to figure out my shapes, but part of the key secret to what I'm going to show you right now has to deal with working rough. And that's what's really, really important to me. Give me a second. Let me delete this. So working rough. So let me create a new layer up here, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about, what I'm imagining here. So when I work rough on a character, the first thing that I start doing is I start looking at the key shapes that are working for me already. It doesn't matter if I'm working realistic or in something that's more stylized for animation. I'm looking for shapes, and one of the shapes that really caught my mind on this sketch right here was this sort of beard shape that this character might have, right? So I think of proportions that already exist. Now I don't have any arms blocked in here. I really don't have any feet or anything. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start to block some of that in. And what I like to do a lot of times is just start with just a round sort of head ball and see how rough I'm going. I'm going around this numerous times. I just like to just start sort of talking to myself and figure out. One of the things I really liked was the fact that this character had like a large size beard that might be hanging out right down here. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing over here. Come over like this, and he might have this beard that's sort of braided. Hopefully you've been watching the Viking TV show, right? One of the best, I think it's a great show. I really like it. And I have no idea where I'm going with this right now. Again, that's why I'm just getting in here and I'm working rough. I start sketching in a nose. I might come in here and start to sketch in an eye or two. And then I just keep going. I'll come back to the face in a little bit. I want to see if I can get a body style that starts to complement part of my character. Now, as far as the body style goes, there's lots of things to adjust on here. I was imagining this guy has like this really huge belly, sort of plops down. Now, I start to sketch in, when I like to work, I sketch in a little bit about what the outfit might be, and then I decide later if there's something I want to change or push. I like this. Some of you guys really noodle things and get in there. I like to just be rough and take it a step at a time and figure out where I'm ending up with my character and where he's taking me. Because what's happening is as I go over these lines a little bit more, I'm defining some more of the shape, and then I could work from that. So I'm basically refining my character every time I go. What am I not doing? Because I saw a couple of people doing this earlier when I was walking around class. I saw people going like this. That's killing my character or anything that I'm doing. I'm not doing that. I'm getting in here. I'm working rough. I'm figuring out what his shape might be, what maybe he has teeth on him, maybe his mouth is partially open, whatever, and I'm just roughing out a general feel for what he might look like, what he might feel like. So let's talk about, we have a little bit of the body shape in here. I want my character to do something, right? What do I not want? I don't want my character with his arms by his side. That's going to be totally boring. So perhaps I have this character and he's sort of reaching over here, so I'm going to draw an arm that comes down here to like an elbow. Maybe he's got a hand and he's sort of reaching over here to the side, and he's got a big battle axe that's right in here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my ruler real quick. I'm just going to draw the base of an axe, let's say right in here. I'm going to sketch the rough position of his hand. Here's his wrist, right? There's the bend in his arm, goes up. If his wrist is right there, I can wrap. I know that his hand's going to come over like this. I might have fingers wrap around like so. And he might have his thumb up against the base of his axe. And then I could come over here, and let's say I decide to put his axe where it's coming this way. There we go. That's sort of like his axe, okay? I didn't really put any thought into this, as you can tell. It's not what's important right now. Right now, as I just rough out the lines, again, I'm refining it as I go, even though it doesn't look like it. He is being refined. I've now positioned where the feet are. I don't have any details. I just have the indication of the arm and so on. The details come later. I mean, if I keep going, look at what happened. Look at where I was before. I was just on that. I was on the shape. Now I'm really refining him, and I have a good idea that he's holding something. So maybe on this arm right here, let's just say he's like, you know, I don't know, you want him pointing at somebody, maybe he's reaching down or something. So I'm going to come over here and, yeah, let's say he's reaching down and he's got his hand on. Let's say his hand's just sort of hanging here. He's got a thumb. There he goes, got a finger there, another one there, and his arm's just sort of hanging out there. Okay, as long as I break the silhouette, I mean, I could have him holding a bag of something, but right now I'm just, again, I'm developing, I'm pulling out the character a little bit more. I'm getting a jacket in here. Let's say I decide to put his pants in about right here, his pant line. Okay, maybe he's got a big, hold on a minute, I think I just made all my layers disappear. I hid a little button that does that in here. Let's get layers back up. Make sure I didn't, okay, we're all right. I'm gonna make sure I didn't drop a layer down. Okay. So I got an arm down here. Maybe he's got a little bit of he's got one of those Norwegian bracelets or something around his wrist here. Okay, I was going to say, what if he had a big belt buckle that's like right in here, right? Goes over part of his pants. Now his pants look sort of funny. I've really distorted part of his shape, right? I don't even know if we'd call that, if he's I guess he was going to be more of a Viking. So what if they're not paths? What if that's like a cloth that's wrapped around him? So if I come in here and fold this and imagine what a cloth would be doing, I'm going to sketch in where my horizon line would be. It's about right there because I'm looking up at my character, and I can see that with all these curved lines that I have in there, right? So maybe he has this cloth that sort of hangs there, and it's sort of drops around him. It comes around there, and then maybe this cloth connects in here. Now his jacket's hitting right at his belt height, so that's not going to look good. So maybe I decide to bring his jacket on. I got the ruler in there now. A little bit higher. So now I'm going to take off these background shapes and see what I have. So do you see how I've refined a character now? I've totally taken him into a different direction. I have a rough drawing to go off of. So let's take that rough now. I'm going to put another line on top of it. Let's refine this guy down a little bit. I'm going to drop that value down a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to get in here. I sort of sketched out a rough idea of what his nose might look like. Might have them like with big old summer teeth. Somewhere over here, somewhere over there. Have you ever heard that expression before? It's really bad. They used to say it about a girl. She's got summer teeth. Somewhere over here, somewhere over there, somewhere everywhere. It's like, man, that's horrible. Now, let me flesh out There, he had an ear in here. Get that ear in there, a little bit more detail. And let me get his eyes. Okay. Get some eyebrows on him. He's supposed to be a Viking, right? So I'm going to put some thicker eyebrows on him. Basically, his beard is growing for the base right here of his ear, almost, and it's sort of just coming out. Now, I don't like this that I can't really see his chin in here. So maybe I need to just end his beard a little bit shorter. I'm going to pull his beard back just a little bit more. I was having different ideas about the hair. I didn't know what I should do right now for this hair, but that's all right. We can just keep defining up our big old Viking here. Okay, now everything from this point, it's just refining. It's going over. His face right now, it's a very sort of typical face. So I might want to push some of those shapes a little bit more. He just looks like sort of a happy guy and just simple and round. You know, and so after I get to this, and if I just keep defining him a little bit more in here, let's just get his elbow in here. Let's get his hand. Now for his jacket, since he's a Viking, he might have something really thick on. So I want to be able to see the thickness of this as it translates over his arm. I'll be looking up at that thickness, right? It's above the horizon line. We talked about horizon lines before in the last assignment. And again, just keep developing. Let's rough them in, refine them, and then once we get to a certain point, we go over them again and re-refine them. If there's things that you see that you don't like already, I'm not liking the way his belt's working. Well, lots of things. I don't like his face. Like I told you guys, I'm in an animal mode right now. I've been drawing animals for weeks. So, that's all right. What I like to do next is if I have a drawing like this that isn't working, then I like to go back in there and figure out how to push my shapes a little bit more. what I can do to add to it. There. So if I leave my guy right here now, this is just, again, I'm roughing him out. If I don't like the way he looks, change him, refine him. I'm still in a rough stage. Let's just go through the stages we were at. We were here, we had a base shape. I went over that base shape, then we refined it into a rough shape. And now I'm going over that rough shape and I'm refining them up a little bit more. Getting a little bit detail, more and more in there. Just developing. And then if I get to a point and I don't like that, change them, go over again, drop the opacity of the layer down, push him. Maybe this guy looks too friendly. When I think of a Viking, I don't think of friendly people. So what I can do now is I can go into this guy and I can start to make him mean. I could either erase or go in there. I could put a frown on his face. When I think of Vikings, I imagine Vikings with like big helmets on where you can't really see much of their face, and they have big thick eyes and big beards. So maybe I need to change up my character a little bit. He's just way too, he's almost like friendly Viking where he wouldn't even want to swing an axe at anybody. So let's just make him into mean Viking then, okay? So let me drop him down a little bit. Again, I can just draw on top of him. So look, now I changed him into mean Viking. Okay? I didn't like him being friendly, happy, mean. Now I put a grumpy face on him and I could keep developing him from there. So that's my process. That's the way I work it. I always hit drawings that I don't like. You always do drawings, what I call bad drawings. You have to get the bad drawings out to find what you really want. And sometimes it's really refining the shapes and figuring out what you want to do. I told you that story how I worked with numerous character designers when I was, when I'm in entertainment, and this is their process. They rough, refine, refine, refine. Nobody just nails it the first time. It doesn't work like that. You have to keep going over your piece continuously, and it starts to develop more and more. Now I like the fact that I can get a chin out of him now. There I'm getting his coat in. So look, I've changed the look of his face. I've altered his jacket a little bit. I've made him much more grumpier. Okay, and now I'm going to come over here. I want to play with the proportions a little bit on his arm. I want to make his arm feel huge. I'm going to pull it out a lot further, like this. Make it look like it's just one big mass of meat and potato. And I give him little sausage fingers. If you have any friends that are football players, a couple of my buddies played football here, and they couldn't pick up a pencil on the table because they had big sausage fingers. Okay. Nothing wrong with sausage fingers. But see how I got that curve and that line now, and it pushed the shape of his arm a little bit more there. Now I'm going to come in here. Let me finish what I was doing with the jacket in here. Trying to make it look like, you know, sheep wool or something. Once I get that wrapped in, I like to go over it with a hard line for the edge to get the silhouette shape to pop out. You see that? That helps it pop out a little bit more. I had his, let me just see if I can get the belt in here. I'm going to thin down the size of the belt a little bit more. Vikings wouldn't have square belts, okay? And I know that. So now I'm thinking, well, I need to round that shape a little bit more. So that's going to affect, that's going to hit his hair. So I can erase his hair right now. And let me just come back to that in a little bit here. Maybe his belt here is going to have some type of Gaelic design on it. Might have a sword sheath. And I decided what I could put on this side, which I didn't do before. Where his hand is right here, what did Vikings also have? Shields, right? So now I could come over here, put a strap. It might come around this part right here. I got to figure out where the ground is right there. Draw a center line down about right here. So that means from there to there, that means the shield will be about that tall. There we go. So that's the shape of my shield with his hand through it. Oops. I'll give his shield some thickness here. They were made out of wood, right? What they had access to. Let's say after this I decided to put little round rivets. I don't know why on a shield. Let's say I just started one here. I have a rivet there. I have a rivet here. Now as it recedes and goes around this corner, they're going to get closer together because the distances are getting closer. See that? Same thing going across the other way. There, and I might have a little bit, might be a little bit of a round pointy thing that pops out of that shield. Okay, and now let's talk about, I like the fact, what if you had this, I was drawing like different, not blankets, but like wraps around them. What if this split like this and went to one side, and then he had another sort of layer in the middle here, let's say. That might be the back of it. I might see it split a little bit like that and come down here. Might overlap the shield right there, so I can erase that part. Okay. Look at the body. Look at how that fold wraps down. Then it might dangle around there. Come forward. Like so. And then he has another shield, not shield, but another type of tarp or something that drapes over him. Right here. And I have that go over the shoe actually right there. Yeah, now I'm sort of second guessing that, because then his feet look a little weird, but that's all right for right now. Let me see if I just get, see if I get a foot popping out of there. Okay. Okay, so I'm putting a little bit of whatever on here and there. So now I can look at my guy here, decide if there's anything else I want to change about him. What else do I want to push? I haven't spent much time on him. I still have this rough underneath. I don't know, maybe he's got like a gold necklace or something under there too. Finish his hair back over here. Okay, so again, I have that character there. Let's take a look. Let me take a look at what I have underneath here. Let's drop it down, off, bring that off, and there. So that's my next version of my character, right? And then I can look back at this now and I can decide, what else do I still want to manipulate? What else do I want to change? That's not, I like him a lot better than the other guy that I had. But now I'm looking at a couple things like, well, if I need to round the shape here with his arm. So what do Vikings have? Anyone? What do Vikings used to have? Tattoos. And like those bracelets, right? They would like wrap around, they would be like for fighting, so sword would hit it. Sometimes they had tattoos that went around. So I don't know about the tattoos. What else would a big, burly, furry guy have? Hair. So I could come over here. I know it's sort of nasty, but I was driving this weekend. My wife was in the car, and we have a new neighbor out. And he was out, and his shirt was off. And he has this hairy back, and he was all sweaty, and his pants were dropping down as he was getting something, and his butt crack was showing, and I'm all, boy, isn't that attractive, So look, you could have hair coming up off of his arms. He's a Viking. They didn't shower all the time. You could have this little bracelet thing that wraps around him. Okay, and again, so that's, It does. So that's a good call. It does look like he has a sleeve. So let's take it off. Let's take it off. And you know what? How about he has a leather bracelet wrapped in leather? So he has this bracelet that comes around, and it's got like a knot here. And then it comes down and it hangs a little bit. And it's got a little feather or something that his wife put there for him. How's that? Much better, right? Yeah. Much more indicative. Maybe he has another one that crosses over in here. There. Now he looks, that fits it. Good call, Anthony, on that. Okay, but see how I got there? And this is my next version. I didn't do this too much time. Now I want to go in here and modify him a little bit. I could push his face. I could adjust his beard a little bit. There's a couple little things that I would really like to get in here and do. All right, but still, it's not a bad position for me to get to, knowing that I've got to here. Now, when we think of Vikings too, they had little ornate bits of detail and stuff. So now I have this fur on him, this fur coat, right? What if he has this ornate thing that wraps around him like this? And then I come in here and just pretend to just darken that. He has like an ornate golden wrap on the bottom. Okay. Oops. There we go. Okay. I could keep pushing him. So I look at his hat, his jacket, so I could go over him again and modify him even more. I could push the shapes up a little bit more. The key is to keep doing it. You don't stop. You keep refining it, getting more and more detail out there, and it gets more and more to come out of the drawing. And that's a really, really pivotal part of your design process. Is now I got to him, but again, let's go back. Let's take a look at where we were. Okay. So here we were. We had shapes, which was nothing. We roughed him out. We had someone we didn't really like that was goofy. We refined him a little bit more and got Mr. Happy-Go-Lucky Viking that didn't really match the guy we were going for. And then we ended up with Mr. Grumpy here. which is much more of a Viking quality. So imagine if I go over him now and redraw on top of him, redraw on top of him, push some of my shapes more. So right now, just to put a quick outline on this, I could tell you a lot. Let me do this in red. Look at what I could push up in terms of shape. Boom, I could push that helmet shape up like that. I can get that much more noticeable. I can flare out some more of his beard out in here like this. Make it a lot more heavy. I can make this one smaller in the middle, so these on the tail dominate. Okay, those become the larger shapes. This becomes the smaller shape in the middle. I could punch up his nose a little bit more, so he's more brooding, a little bit stronger like that. Okay, I can push out his jaw a little bit more, bring it out a little bit more, make him look a little stronger and heavier. Okay, I can really push up the puffiness on his jacket like to here, to make it look like this really thick piece of fur that's on him. Okay, I could do the same thing over there. You know, I like the way, part of me wants to adjust a foot and bring a foot down and over this way a little bit more, so I can adjust a foot about right in here. Okay, that's the important part. Is it, can you critique your own stuff, go back and strengthen it, refining, and then when you get better at what you're doing, some of your progress gets simplified, it gets easier. I would keep refining this guy right now until I get the guy that I like, and the parts that I like I would keep, and if I don't like him, I change him and I modify it up. So what's the one thing I tell all my students all the time? You just don't get the first answer. The first answer is not your solution. It's usually number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, even sometimes 13, 14 down the line that ends up providing you with the right answers. Okay? All right, I'm going to go ahead and end this demo right now and save it.